She took credit for my code. So I programmed her presentation to reveal everything she stole, live. Everyone at the company called me the quiet one. I didn't mind it. It was better than the names I heard muttered under breaths. Visa hire, diversity. Hire, and my favorite, offshore code monkey. My name is Shurfat Rahman, and I'm a 27-year-old Bangladeshi software engineer working at a sleek San Francisco tech startup called Ether AI. I came here on an H-1B visa after completing my master's in computer science in Texas. I know 5 languages, but in the office, I barely spoke one. That is, until the day someone stole my code. And I decided to rewrite the rules of silence. Her name was Melissa Crane. She was the rising star PM, Harvard grad, high heels that clicked across the polished floor like she owned the algorithm we all built. Melissa had a knack for saying things like, "Just keep the tech magic coming," and then taking credit for other people's work during executive meetings. And for 6 months, I let it slide. Because in our culture, we're taught, stay humble, keep your head down, work hard, and your merit will speak. But merit doesn't speak in corporate America. Melissa does. It started with small things. She'd present my data models in meetings without mentioning my name. Say, our team built this. When only one person stayed past midnight with cold biryani and a terminal window. Then came the real betrayal. We were building Ether Core, a new proprietary AI framework that would become the company's flagship. I designed the entire architecture from scratch, wrote every major line, documented it, versioned it, commented it. Melissa submitted it as her prototype for our internal leadership summit. When I confronted her gently, she laughed and said, "You should be flattered. You're part of the team." And that night, I stopped being quiet. I started planning. 1. Because if she wanted credit for my code, she was going to present it. All of it, including the embedded truth I quietly buried inside the system, and scheduled to go live on stage during her big moment. From that night on, my evenings were no longer about bug fixes or performance testing. They were about precision. I created a fork of Ether Core, not on the official branch, not even on a visible repo, a hidden subdirectory buried in a sandboxed build directory, accessible only through a command sequence I wrote in Bash and disguised as a cache cleaner. In this forked version, I began embedding triggers. Triggers that would execute if a very specific user, Melissa's corporate profile, tried to run the code. Using a company-issued presentation environment. Think of it like smart revenge. Subtle. Surgical. My script didn't alter the actual code functionality. No, it did something better. At 3:45 p.m., 10 minutes into her scheduled talk, the system would detect Melissa's credentials and load a pop-up embedded deep in the UI. The message? This code was designed and built by Shurfat Rahman. For internal use only. Do not present without credit. And then it would scroll screenshots, Git logs, timestamps, even the commit IDs, all under my name. If she tried to override it, the script would expose the forked repo tree and play a recording. Yes, a recording. Of her saying, "You should be flattered. You're part of the team," captured during our Slack huddle, auto-transcribed and timestamped. If you're going to play games in tech, you better understand version control. Now the hard part, deploying it without getting caught. I timed the insertion window. Between 1:15 a.m. and 1:23 a.m. on a Sunday, the dev pipeline did automated cleanup that overwrote the local temp folders in our dev instance. No one monitored it live. I slid my forked version into the pipeline, not to replace anything, just to wait. Then I ran her mock environment once, tested it on a dummy build labeled as her own login, and watched it run like clockwork. 2. Next step? Play it cool. Melissa, of course, had no idea. She was busy running around with her clipboard, her bright red lipstick, and her overly rehearsed talking points for the internal summit titled, "The Future of Machine Learning at Ether AI." That Monday, she asked me to tweak the UI before the summit. I smiled. Done already. Just ran the final push. She winked. "You're a lifesaver, Shurfat. I'll make sure the higher-ups know." I nodded, looking forward to it. The internal summit was held at a sleek conference center downtown, one of those glass and metal palaces with air conditioning that whispers and lighting that makes everyone look like a LinkedIn headshot. Melissa arrived in a pantsuit so sharp it looked like it was coated in Python. She was flanked by the other PMs and a couple of junior engineers who kept asking if she needed water, notes, encouragement. I stayed in the back, watching, waiting. At exactly 3:35 p.m., the crowd was ushered into the main hall. Executives from HQ were seated in the front row. A large screen glowed behind the podium with the words, Ethercore Building. Tomorrow. Melissa took the stage. Her smile was photo-ready, her voice crisp. She began with the typical jargon. We're revolutionizing machine learning pipelines, democratizing intelligent infrastructure, reducing model training latency by 42%. And then she opened the demo. Let me walk you through the actual system, built with love, sweat, and lots of coffee, she said, pretending to be humble. 3. Click. The UI loaded. Everyone leaned forward. At precisely 3:45 p.m., the pop-up appeared. Large, centered, undeniable. This code was designed and built by Shifat Rahman. For internal use only. Do not present without credit. She froze. There was a ripple of confused murmurs. She clicked. The screen changed. Side-by-side commit logs appeared. Screenshots of code. Time-stamped. Tagged. Then the audio began to play. You should be flattered. You're part of the team. Her voice unmistakable. Gasps. One of the executives turned to the CTO. Another whispered, Is this part of the demo? Melissa's face turned pale, then flushed red. She clicked furiously. Tried to shut it down. Nothing worked. Finally, the screen went black, and a final message appeared. Integrity can't be copy-pasted. Silence. She looked around. All eyes on her. Then she ran off stage. And me? I quietly exited through the side door. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it compiles silently and executes flawlessly. The next day, Ether AI felt like a shaken snow globe, silent chaos. Whispers replaced hallway chatter. People kept glancing at the big glass doors like Melissa might walk. Back in, high heels clicking, pretending nothing happened. But she didn't. Instead, at 10:14 a.m., the CTO sent a company-wide email. Following yesterday's incident during the internal summit, Melissa Crane is no longer with Ether AI. We take ownership and intellectual property seriously. It was cold, sterile, but final. The email ended with, We'll be conducting an internal review. My heart thudded. I didn't know if I'd crossed a line too. By noon, HR summoned me. The moment I stepped into HR's glass-walled office, I braced for impact. 2 people were waiting. Rajiv, our company's HR director, a calm, calculating man who always had. His fingers steepled like he was solving chess, and Clara from legal. They didn't waste time. Rajiv gestured to the seat across from him. Sure, Fat. Thanks for coming in. I nodded. I assume this is about the summit. Clara gave a tight smile. Yes. It was unprecedented. They asked if I wanted representation. I declined. Not because I didn't know better, but because I wasn't afraid. Rajiv began. Melissa's actions were unacceptable. You had every right to be upset. Clara added. However, you introduced unauthorized modifications into a company prototype. Even if you didn't alter functionality, you hijacked a public event. I took a breath. What she presented wasn't hers. I wrote every line. You'll find my commits. Timestamps. Even early design drafts in the internal confluence. Clara nodded. We saw. And that's why we're not pursuing termination. I blinked. You're not. Rajiv leaned forward. No. But we are documenting this formally. And moving you off Melissa's old project. You'll report directly to the CTO now. That caught me off guard. He continued, We want you on a new internal security team, protocol hardening. We're building transparency layers into the dev pipeline. And you're our best candidate. I stared. You want me to make sure people like Melissa can't do what she did? Rajiv nodded. Exactly. 1. That was the moment I realized. Sometimes speaking truth to power doesn't get you fired, it gets you heard. Later that day, something even stranger happened. The CEO called me. He didn't ask what happened. Didn't ask if I regretted it. He simply said, "You saved us from a huge PR disaster. I respect the way you stood up for yourself. Quiet people like you usually change the game. We'd like to invest in that." My throat tightened. No one had ever said that to me, not in college, not in internships, not even back home. I thanked him, hung up, and exhaled. A week later, I got a LinkedIn message. From Melissa. One line, "You win. Hope it was worth it." I didn't reply. Not because I was petty, but because the truth didn't need a response. My parents called that night. They'd heard from a cousin that something big had happened at work. They asked if I was okay. I said I was more than okay. "I think I finally spoke up, Abu," I said. "In my own way." He paused, then said, "Good. Speak softly, but carry clean code." My mother shouted in the background, "Tell them he's single and writes clean Python." I laughed for the first time in weeks. In the following months, I rose quickly. Not because of what I did to Melissa, but because of what I built after. Transparent pipelines, attribution protocols, auto-version control. I gave every engineer tools to own their work and speak up. People started saying hi in the break room. Junior devs asked to shadow me. HR included me in a mentorship program for international hires. I became visible. The irony? Melissa's downfall wasn't my success. Her theft just highlighted the value I'd quietly built. And finally, my silence became strength. So if you're wondering whether to speak up, whether revenge is worth it, I won't pretend it's easy. But I'll say this. Sometimes, the best code you'll ever write is the one that rewrites yourself. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or taken for granted in a workplace where your accent, your silence, or your culture made you feel less than, this story is for you. Because this isn't just a tale of office politics or digital revenge. It's about voice. Surefat didn't raise his voice. He didn't rage. He didn't lash out. He did something far more powerful. He let the truth speak through his work. In a world where louder often means righter, Surefat proved that integrity has its own volume. Melissa's downfall wasn't his goal. It was a byproduct of standing up for what was right, with evidence, elegance, and expert-level execution. Let's not forget, representation matters. Attribution matters. Empowering silent talent matters. And so does coding with ethics. In the end, Surefat didn't just get recognition. He built systems so others wouldn't have to go through what he did. He didn't just win. He changed things. 3. So if you enjoyed this story, and you believe in stories where cultural identity, tech integrity, and bold, quiet resistance collide, Backhand Index Pointing Right subscribe for more Reddit-style dramatic tales that highlight unsung heroes. Speech balloon comment below. Have you ever had someone take credit for your work? How did you respond? Loudspeaker share this with every quiet coder, every intern who doubts themselves, and every team member who needs to be reminded, you don't need to be loud to be powerful. Until next time, stay brave, stay sharp, and if you must strike, strike with syntax.